The MV Express Pearl had left the port of Hazira in India on 20 May 2021 and was on its way to Singapore via Colombo. The Sri Lankan officials have begun preparing for a potentially devastating oil spill after the cargo ship carrying toxic chemicals caught fire off the coast and sank. Tons of plastic pellets have fouled the country's rich fishing waters. Sri Lanka is facing the worst environmental disaster in its history. The chemicals had leaked into the sea and contaminated the water, probably caused ecological damage to coral reefs, lagoons and mangroves that could take decades to repair. It is feared the chemical spill has already caused untold damage to Sri Lanka's coastline, including the popular tourist resorts of Negombo and Kalyuttara, with beaches thickly coated in microplastics and an oil slick visible in the surrounding ocean. The plastic pellets used to make plastic bags can be fatal to marine life. Dead sea turtles, fish and birds have already begun washing up on beaches. The government on 2 June suspended fishing along 80 kilometers stretch of the island's coastline, affecting 5,600 fishing boats, and hundreds of soldiers have been deployed to clean affected beaches. Local people have been told not to touch any of the debris as it could be highly toxic. The 25-person crew was evacuated, but the firefighting operation attempts has been complicated by monsoon winds and the highly flammable and poisonous cargo. The Sri Lankan Navy and Indian Coast Guard have been trying to reduce the flames for more than 10 days. Though officials said the worst of the fire had been extinguished, explosions continued to be heard, and thick smoke and small flames could be seen from the vessel over the weekend. The Singapore-registered MV Express Pearl had been carrying 1,486 containers, including 25 tons of nitric acid, sodium hydroxide, 278 tons of bunker fuel oil, 50 tons of gas oil in its tanks, and 20 containers of lubricating oil, along with other dangerous chemicals and cosmetic substances, and was anchored off 14 kilometers from the port in Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo at the west coast, when a fire erupted on board after an explosion on 20 May. Flaming containers laden with chemicals tumbled into the sea from the ship's deck as emergency crews sought to contain the blaze over the ensuing 2 weeks. A Dutch salvage company attempted to tug the vessel to deeper water away from the coast, but the attempt was abandoned after several hours as the stern hit the seabed on 2 June. According to the Sri Lankan authorities, the towing of the fire-engulfed Express Pearl ship was on standby and stopped due to the rear end of the vessel hitting the seabed and in case oil began to spill from the half-submerged ship, which would have a catastrophic impact on the country's marine life and fishing industry. The charred wreck of the ship spewing white smoke and the stern of the ship had sunk and soon touched the seabed just 22 meters deep in the immediate area, and the front section, which remained above sea level, was settling down slowly. The impact of the disaster is already being felt in Sri Lanka, where hazardous waste, microplastics and burned debris have washed up along the once pristine shores, requiring the Navy to conduct a cleanup operation. Thousands of Navy personnel in protective gear have been deployed on a cleanup operation to remove the thick layer of plastic pollution and chemical waste that has begun coating the shores. The government has promised an investigation into the disaster, and a special police team has been assembled to question the captain and crew. Authorities believe the disaster was caused by a nitric acid leak, and the crew may have been aware of a chemical leak 10 days before they alerted harbor authorities, while a search operation has begun to retrieve the ship's voyage data recorder. The Center for Environmental Justice, a conservation group in Sri Lanka, said it would be filing a public interest lawsuit against the Singaporean company that owns Express Pearl to claim damages for the environmental devastation. Authorities in Singapore have also launched their own inquiry.